A very good evening, Manchester City fans around the world, as we welcome Pep Guardiola to the Etihad Stadium. I welcome you to Matchday Live, and I can bring you our starting 11 straight away. It's on the bottom of your screens now, but I'll run you through it. We begin, of course, Ederson still has that knock, so Stefan Ortega has kept his place in between the sticks. As we move to our back four, Rico Lewis comes into the team after coming on off the bench for the injured Nathan Ake in the game at the weekend. Manuel Akanji, Ruben Diaz and Josko Gvardiol complete the back four. Rodri there in his holding role, ever present this season, alongside Bernardo Silva. And then our attacking four, I guess, Phil Foden, Jeremy Doku, Jack Grealish and Julian Alvarez. Darius, surprised to see Julian Alvarez in the starting 11?
No, not according to his quality. We're just looking out on the pitch there, how good it looks. He's certainly a player who's going to want to, be outstanding on an occasion like this. And when he's got the quality pitch like that and the quality players around him, it's a big occasion for him, and he can certainly come up with the goods.
Can indeed. Right, let's take a look then who we're going to be coming up against. You can see them there in the tunnel at the Etihad Stadium. We welcome Aston Villa this evening, and this is how they line up. Of course, World Cup winner, friend and teammate of Julian Alvarez, Emilio Martinez, captains his side. Then we have Diego Carlos, Konsa, Douglas Luiz, Digny, Lenglet, Diaby, Zanillo, Duran, Rodgers, a former Manchester City player as well there, will be familiar to some City fans. He does start for Villa tonight. And Irobenham completes the starting 11 for Aston Villa. How big of a miss do you think Ollie Watkins could be, Mr. Martin O'Neill?
I think he'd be a big miss. I do think that. I think the same with John McGinn. I think those are two major players. I think they're very influential. Obviously, Watkins in terms of his goals, particularly away from home, and McGinn's influence in the side overall. So yes, two big misses for them.
Two big misses indeed. We're going to get more into that starting 11 in just a second. But first, welcome to the studio. We're live from the Etihad Stadium, and as you know, we are welcoming Aston Villa to the ground tonight, hoping to get back to winning ways after that 0-0 draw at the weekend. And alongside me, two brilliant guests. I'm so excited for the show this evening. To my left, a legendary manager and a man who has done what Man City are hoping to do this season with back-to-back European Cups. He did that with Nottingham Forest. Please welcome Mr. Martin O'Neill, and alongside Martin O'Neill, a man who knows both clubs very well, scored goals for both. Great pleasure to welcome Darius Vassell. Martin, let's begin. Looking at this Manchester City starting 11, few changes from the weekend. That was probably to be expected, given the busy fixture period as well.
Well, I suppose you're going to have to take the fixture list into consideration. That's true, and it is busy. I'm a little bit surprised, I must admit myself, because I thought that De Bruyne might start in the game and Haaland would start. Particularly some sort of criticism was coming his way about not being that fantastic, other than just scoring 100 goals per season. But I am a little surprised at that. That I thought here at home, I thought that this is the first big game. Sometimes. Listen, it is a heavy schedule, there's no question about it. And Manchester City proved last season that they could deal with it, and that's great. So they've been there before. And who am I to question a manager who's only won 35 titles in about 2 years as well? So what I'm trying to say is that I'm just a little bit surprised that both of them are not in the starting lineup. It might change after an hour in the game. But this is a tough game tonight, regardless of the misses that Aston Villa will suffer. So I'm just a little surprised.
A little bit surprised. You mentioned as well, obviously, for Haaland as well, it'd be a chance maybe for him to come back. We were thinking maybe he could be looking to the Crystal Palace game and saving him for that. But in Alvarez, we mentioned just before, though, player who knows where the back of the net is, and also great with his link-up play, kind of has been playing more that number 10 this season.
Certainly, which is what they're going to have to do without Haaland in the side. They're going to have to link up a little bit more and create clear-cut chances for each other. But they've proven over the season that they can create those chances and put them away. It's just really important that they do it now, though.
Yeah, it really is. Jack Grealish starting, which is so great to see. He's been really unlucky with injuries this season, Martin. What will he bring to that left-hand side that maybe City have missed with him being out, do you think?
Well, again, this is an interesting one, because I think that Doku, strangely enough, his best position may well be on that side as well too. He is capable of going past players on the right-hand side, but I think sometimes players can become comfortable knowing Doku's got the one thing over Jack in the sense that he is quick, he's really quick, and he'll go either side. And the minute he makes his mind up, if he's playing on the left-hand side, and the minute he makes his mind up about going outside, he's gone. Jack can do that to a certain extent, and then we'll check back again and give it in. But Jack Grealish has gone and proved himself, worthy there, and disappeared, I think, for about a week after they won the Champions League. No problem. I'd have disappeared for a month if that was the case, but not a problem. Yes, but Jack, you know that he'll never give the ball away. You know that he's strong. He shields it superbly from his left, and he can make just little angles and just thread little balls through in the edge of the penalty area as well too. So some of those particular things you would think that Manchester City may have missed.
Absolutely. I guess as well, one man, his fellow England teammate, or we know they're really close, Phil Foden, or love seeing him back on the pitch. I'm thinking, Darius, we put Doku out on the right-hand side if Jack's playing left. It'll probably be Bernardo and Phil in the middle then with Rodri obviously anchoring. Really excites me seeing Bernardo and Phil in there. What do you make of them two in the middle, and why do you think he's opted for that, say, over a Kovacic maybe or De Bruyne this evening?
He obviously wants goals, wants to win the game. That's not to say Kovacic isn't a game or match winner. I'll say that to have Grealish and Doku in the side, maybe that's the way you get the best out of them.
Yeah.
Get them both on both wings and have that option to use them as and when you need. I do think, though, that it will be fluid. I think you'll find some of them in different positions at some point in the game. That's how City like to play, and they've just got to make the most of it now. It's interesting that Doku and Grealish were almost battling for the same position, and what you might find is that if they find themselves on the pitch at the same time, they might be more inclined to make it work rather than one of them having to sit out. So
yes,
sometimes that's an incentive for them to do well.
Also, as a player, though, as well, it's going to be an obvious question, this, but when you do see the fluidity that City can have, whether if someone drops out to the left and comes back into the middle, as a player, how much intelligence do you have to be able to do that and execute it well?
I think it's something that you practice, obviously, and get it done. It's something that you need trust in your teammates to get it done right. I think the important thing is that if it doesn't work out, understand what you have to do out of possession, and once that's locked in, it gives you that freedom to go and express yourself when you have the football.
They do indeed. One man, Martin, I really wanted to speak to you about is the ever-present Rodri. The stats speak for themselves. I think he's over 360 days now, hasn't lost a game for club or country, but I remember you've spoken about before how much you enjoy the control that a Pep's Man City team has, but he is key to that and key to the whole rhythm of the game as well, isn't he?
He very much is. He is a terrific footballer, no question about it. Can receive the ball under pressure. This idea that that a midfield player, a genuine quality midfield player, can see a picture before anyone else, can see the little pass that he's going to make before he's received the ball. Every week, and he'll amaze me with some little, even if it's only a little 5-yard pass that he's seen that no one else has seen. But it's not just that; it's the ability that he has. So strong as well too. He's not going to be roughed off anything, and he's commanding. He's really commanding. He's a proper player. He really is a proper footballer in every aspect. In my playing day, Liverpool had a Graham Souness, that sort of commanding player that everything went through. Not to say that Liverpool didn't have great players. Besides, they certainly did. Dalglish, Rush, you could name a load of them. But that sort of thing. But Man City are so blessed to have this player playing at the top of his game, and he doesn't. Even when things are not going so well, you feel as if he'll deal with it.
Yes.
He'll deal with it. He'll bring us out of this. And maybe that's why he's an ever-present.
It is indeed, and I guess those attributes as well of keeping calm and cool under pressure is key in every, throughout the season, but none more so when you're in the business end and you've more or less got maybe 8 must-win games ahead of you, Real Madrid coming up in the Champions League. You need them mentalities, don't you, I guess, for the team and the younger players.
Yes, certainly. That calmness will translate to the players. If you're a big player like that, the players will feed off that calm energy and be able to produce their best football. I think it's a big game for them today. I think Villa are capable of hitting teams on the break really well. And I think if City don't lock out that counter-attack today, they might find themselves, in trouble at different periods of the game. If they have possession like you expect them to do so, it will be because Rodri's keeping it tight, keeping them locked out.
You mentioned that counter, which sometimes Martin is, particularly this season, has been maybe an Achilles heel of Pep's City team, is that quick transition and the ball over the top. using Rodri obviously as well, but what can City be doing to try and limit them counter-attacks?
Well, we're saying these things as if this is like a surprise, but when you have so many players in the side going forward, for instance, when I watch Manchester City, you know, take Kyle Walker, he's not playing tonight, but for instance, you know, and I look, I'm watching the game on screen and I think, I don't see him in a right-back position. I see him really wide right, and I see play. So when you are in command of the ball and you're and you have loads of possession, there is a tendency for players to be further up the field than perhaps. So it's not a major surprise to me that sometimes on the break, because they are in possession and their possession is in the opposition half, so that sometimes just a little misplaced pass allows the opposition just to fire something over the top, and then you're in a bit of trouble.
Of course.
Despite Walker's pace that I'm talking about, sometimes you can be in a little bit of trouble. So it doesn't become as a major surprise to me. Maybe the surprise to me is that Man City have given it away cheaply. That's all. But overall, yeah, you can be susceptible to these things when you have so much possession and your possession is in the opposition, like almost all players playing in the opposition half.
Yeah, it's a symptom of the way that we play. And I think sometimes fans can forget that, isn't it? Is what we're actually getting to see and love, and when we're seeing the dominating attacking football, that is because of, you know, how we tactically set up Darius. Moving to the back half of the pitch as well, young Rico Lewis comes into the side. I wanted to mention him because as well, we know, I mean, I thought Guardiola was brilliant against Arsenal, but if there's a player to drop in, it probably comes from that right back. So it's a big night for Rico Lewis.
Yeah, it's a massive night. These are the occasions he will be dreaming of. Great opportunity to get Man City on a roll of momentum leading into the end of the season. He can be a big part of that. And obviously he'll get forward as well and he'll produce when he can. So looking forward to seeing him play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just tell me, please, what do you feel from watching them at close quarters? What is his best position, or what position do you think that he'll eventually take up? Is he a fullback? Is he a midfield player? What do you think?
I feel with Rico, I think he'll learn his trade and the system at right back, but I think in the long term, I think he'll do what he did with Philipp Lahm at Bayern Munich and moving back into that holding role.
Yeah, on this.
I feel.
Okay,
I think.
fine.
Oh, nice. I like a question coming my way.
Yes, absolutely.
Right, let's pause here in the studio. Kit Simons is on your commentary team today with Alistair Mann. He's now pitch side with FG, and we can hear what he thinks about some key battles on the pitch tonight.
Yes, thank you very much, Kel. Welcome to Pitchside at the Etihad. As you can see, I'm in great company. I'm joined once again by Kit Simons. Welcome back to the Etihad. First things first, how are you feeling about the game today?
Yeah, excited, looking forward to it. A little bit nervous. I always am before games, to be fair, but no, looking forward to it. Yeah, I think it'll be good.
Now, we've seen both sides, we've seen the lineup, so we're going to talk a little bit about the key battles that we think are going to happen. So, first things first, Julian Alvarez, a start for Julian, a player who's never let us down, a World Cup winner, a man who's won absolutely everything in football, and he's going to be up against Ezri Konsa at centre-half today and Diego Carlos. How do you think he's going to get on, and how do you think he's going to make it difficult for him?
I think his brightness, his movement, he makes it difficult for any centre-back. He's such a clever player. And everyone talking about Erling being out, but we've got Alvarez coming in, you know, who's an incredible player himself. So he'll give any centre-back a tough time, like I say, just with his intelligence.
I mean, now the beauty of course, being at Manchester City is we're so blessed to have such great talent that we've not seen much of recently, and Alvarez is one of them. He will be absolutely desperate to make a claim and to get some goals tonight, won't he?
Well, I think he's literally been chomping a bit for quite a while now, you know, and I think it's probably a deliberate ploy from Pep to get these players really hungry, and this is maybe the time of the season now when we're going to need everyone for sure. And when the boys come back in and get their opportunity, I think they'll be looking to take it.
Now, of course, we probably will see quite a few changes from Pep, especially for the people who are doing FPL, because we've got so many games this month, especially with the Champions League coming up. And a man who's coming in today is Rico Lewis as well. A great performance at the weekend when he came on, did really, really well. A lovely little turn on the edge of the box, not bad for a fullback. How do you think he's going to do today? Because he'll have his work cut out against the wingers Villa have got.
Yeah, he will do, but like I say, he's a young player still, but he's almost become established now within this team. He's getting more and more confident all the time. Certainly never let City down, and has got better and better as it's gone on. And you say, you know, doing a turn like that as a fullback, I'm not sure. I mean, he'll be playing fullback tonight, but he'll be infield a lot of the time, getting on the ball and playing up as a winger almost at other times. So that's the way City play, and he's just an all-round very, very good, talented footballer.
Now, of course, Villa are without Watkins. He's injured, and then John McGinn is suspended. How do you think they're going to approach this game? Because they've got Douglas Luiz in midfield, who's obviously was once involved in the CFG and stuff, and there was a time where we potentially wanted to bring him to the Etihad, but he's been absolutely brilliant. But do you expect him to play a bit more of a reserved role to try and keep that midfield under check?
Yeah, I'd expect so. I mean, he's an excellent footballer and done a really good job for Aston Villa. But I can't see them coming to the Etihad and being gun-ho, certainly, and he'll be the one who sits and holds for them more than anyone.
Our goalkeepers have just come out, by the way, behind us, ready for their pre-match routines. We spoke about loads and loads of games as well. Phil Foden, a man that we predict today, of course, because Jack and Jeremy are starting, is going to be back in the middle of the pitch. Where is Phil Foden's best position?
Yeah, he's such a talented footballer, but I think he prefers, if you ask him, to be in that number 10 slot, more central. But like I say, even when he plays wide, he drifts in anyway and takes up those positions. So he's just such an intelligent player, and the whole of that front four are going to be rotating and moving around, and sometimes Alvarez will drop deeper and Phil will be the highest player. Sometimes probably one of the fullbacks will be our highest player. The movement and the rotation is so immense from this City team.
I've seen a lot of stuff online, especially this week, about Manchester City and whether there's a little bit of a time to worry and stuff. Just a reminder that this time last year we were in a worse position for everyone who's watching Match of the Day. But just give us some logic behind this kit. There's nothing to worry about, surely, at this point. There's so many games still to go, and there's definitely going to be twists and turns.
100% for sure. I mean, 9 games, obviously, in the Premier League, and you know, all the different cups, and it's so much football still to play. And I think everyone in the squad's going to be utilised. You know, there's going to be chops and changes. Going to have to be. And like I say, I think Pep's looking ahead to other games all the time, and he's not just, I mean, his focus will be on this one once the whistle goes, don't worry about that, but the team he picks, he's looking ahead as well to other matches. So there's a lot of thought, a very strong thought process goes into everything that happens here these days. The way it's done is incredible.
It is incredible indeed. Now let's talk about Villa real quick. We won't leave them out, of course. They've had an absolutely amazing season. They made it so difficult for us at Villa Park, albeit McGinn was playing that day in midfield and had a great game. They're in a position now where they're so close to Champions League football, and the teams around them have dropped points last night. Do you think this is sort of a little bit of a free hit, or do they desperately need a result from this?
No, I wouldn't. Well, I think neither really. I don't think it's quite a free hit, but you know, they won't be like desperate for the result either. If they come here and pick up a point, I think they'll be delighted. Don't get me wrong, but I think, if anything, it's probably more pressure on City being the home team. We need to go and win this really today to keep that title challenge going for the Premier League, which, listen, 4 in a row will be some achievement for that. So I think probably more pressure on us, but listen, that's nothing new. You know, we're used to that every game we go into pretty much.
Absolutely love it. It's an absolute pleasure, as always, to be here pitchside with you. Let's head back to the guys in the studio and get their take.
Thanks, FG, and thank you to Kit Simons there. He is with Alistair Mount on the Manchester City app with your commentary for the game. Now, just some news in for Aston Villa. We said Martinez was starting. He has fallen ill, so Olsen is going to come into that starting 11. We're not too sure who's going to be the captain. We're thinking maybe Douglas Luiz or Konsa, but I'll let you know as soon as we have that confirmed. How much does that affect and impact a group of players in the changing room, Darius? You know, well, I mean, obviously it's the keeper, but also your captain as well.
I do think it does have an effect, but looking on the bench, they had 2 keepers on the bench anyway, so they was possibly aware that there was some sort of issue with him. So they've had time to get to grips with that. But they do have quite a few players missing today, Aston Villa, so I do think that if ever it was, it's an opportunity for Man City to go and take the points which are available.
Looking at Villa as a whole, Martin, how impressed have you been with this Villa team? Obviously, where they are in the league, and as FG said there, it speaks for itself. But what is it you've enjoyed about watching them play and they've been doing this year?
Well, first of all, you must give credit to the manager. He's a super manager. He really is. He's proved himself on the continent. He's won the Europa League a number of times, and he's been really good. I thought myself, and this is not just looking back now because he's doing well at Villa, I thought he got a rough old time at Arsenal. Great. English wasn't great, I must admit, and sometimes that didn't help a great deal. But having said this, his English is better than my Spanish, so let's deal with that. However, he's come in there. I know they were having a tough time under Steven Gerrard, but he has resurrected a few careers. Like John McGinn, he's had big conversations with McGinn and said to him, listen, do you want to be a player or things like this here? From listening to what has been said. So McGinn now has become a top quality player under him for a start. But he's lifted the football club. That's the point, and it's not a major surprise to me that they're challenging in that position. I genuinely mean that because of him as much as anything else. His attention to detail is very, very strong. You get the impression, I suppose, a bit like myself, I didn't leave the football ground till about 10 o'clock at night time, but you feel as if he'll be studying something long after everybody's gone home. So it's really great. But again, you must have a response as well too. So the response from the players has been terrific as well. Really, really terrific. So a bit of both. And Darius will tell you that when Villa Park is bouncing, it's a proper football club.
Oh, it is indeed. I mean, of course, we all know, as we said there, we lost 1-0 there, and actually, to be fair, I think that was very flattering. I felt it could have been 4-5-0.
Yeah.
Key players within that team, then one being City fans will know Douglas Luiz. I just wondered what you've made of his Villa career, but particularly this season, he just seems to have made that initial next step up to go, no, I'm going to be a man that can make a difference.
I agree. I think, as Martin said himself, manager's got the best out of him. He looks like a really top player, a player that Villa probably need to make sure they keep hold of, and a player who, in the past, you see with Villa, big players tend to leave the club, and I think Villa need to be worried about that because I think teams would have their eyes on him, and you can see why Man City, were trying to get something sorted with him earlier on before he went to Villa. So he's a massive player. He's a big player for Villa. He's reliable, capable. He's experienced now in the team. And I think that the players around him buy into him as a person, and the players collectively buy into the manager, more importantly. So everything's working well for Villa so far, and it may continue. I was going to say long may it continue, but it may continue.
Well, of course. And is midfield a key battleground there today? Obviously, we're looking, you've kind of got Douglas Luiz there, we've got Rodriguez. Is that going to be a key kind of battlefield for the game, do you think?
I really do think so. I think if City are going to enjoy the majority of the possession, it's going to be about that battle. That misplaced pass that Martin spoke about, it's who wins the next one then, who's going to be sharpest to gain possession of the football. So we will have our eye on that when the game starts.
Tactically, it'll be very, very interesting because we expect, particularly here, but Manchester City can go anywhere and have more possession than any home side, never mind anything else. But with Aston Villa playing, and generally speaking, play quite high, Darius, don't they?
Yeah,
play quite
they
high.
do.
So they're going to be forced back tonight. There's no question about that there. It's how far they want to go by. But this game for periods, prolonged periods in the match, let me put it this way, you always have to be careful about something being hit on the brake. But for prolonged periods in this game, we're going to see this game being played in Aston Villa's half. And it's how far they're going to drop back and how they deal with little, as they call it in this day and age, these little pockets of space that people talk about, I'm fed up listening to that comment, but anyway, the pockets of space, there were pockets of space when George Best was playing. Yeah, there is. Believe it or not. You just had to try and find them. And Manchester City have the ability to find them. There's no question about that. That's an interesting aspect tonight when I see it, just to see Aston Villa, who will have to play this game for prolonged periods without the ball.
How much do you have confidence then in their defensive unit? I mean, he's on the bench, but Pau Torres, I think, has been brilliant this season. I know, actually, I think City even looked at him a few seasons ago. But you've got Konsa in there, Diego Carlos as well as season pro. How do you think they're going to deal with that pressure that Martin's talking about?
It's the ultimate test here where they are now at the Etihad. So we'll certainly find out after the game. I think the goalkeeper is a big miss. I think his voice to the back four is something that they've got used to, which has helped them. But again, it's an opportunity for the keeper to come in and carry on that job and that role. But that's, again, something City possibly could capitalise on today.
And I guess as well, they probably wouldn't like to look to a bench and see Erling Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne coming on, would they?
Yeah, massive chance City can finish the game strong, so we'll see.
We'll see indeed. And well, you can see these are live pictures just from our tunnel here in the Etihad Stadium if you've just tuned in. These are the boys just heading out to warm up now, of course, ahead of our Aston Villa tie. And you can see the starting 11 on the bottom of your screen there. Now, if you want to get involved with the show, please do. This is the all-important WhatsApp number. That's how you can get some questions or comments in for our guests. And you know, we've already had a couple come in already, so I'm gonna ask you each a question now that's come in on our WhatsApp number. And remember, you can do the same as well at home. And I'm gonna begin with you, Darius, because I love this question. It goes, what was more intense, the Birmingham derby, the Manchester derby, or playing in Turkey?
Oh, wow.
Ooh, good question.
Well, they were all intense for different reasons, but I do think that Manchester derby was a massive experience. Stadium that we played in, it was bigger than what I'm used to. A lot more people, and the fact that at the time, you know, City hadn't won that many games against Manchester United, and in my first season, we managed to beat them twice.
Yeah,
I think.
you did
So that was a great feeling.
Yeah.
And we never beat Blues when I played. It's a bit less so.
Did you not?
No, sorry.
Pathetic.
Thank you to Alex for that question there. Zoe sent this one in for you, Martin. Zoe wanted to know, is there a team that you would have loved to have managed in your career?
That's a good question. Do you know what? I'm not really sure. Even now, after all these years, I'm not really sure. I didn't set out for that. That was not my driving force. I tried to. I think you find out the length of time that I stayed at clubs would suggest that you know, you want to try and build something, you want to try and be part of it, and all of those particular things. But I suppose really, if when I was growing up, and to see in black and white television, to see the white shirts of Real Madrid away back, and then I thought when they played Barcelona, and still was in black and white, I thought Barcelona played in black. But they didn't because of the TV. So, and then perhaps you wanted to play for Real Madrid. And then eventually when George Best, coming from Northern Ireland, became a big hero at Manchester United, you wanted to try and emulate George Best, all of those particular things. But in going into the management side, no, I'm really happy with the clubs that I managed. Leicester City, after a tough start, I really loved it there at the football club. Aston Villa, of course, and Celtic, you know, which would be from my background in Northern Ireland, growing up as a Celtic fan, to actually not play for them, but managing, I think, was like the second best thing.
It must have been so special. Do you know what? I've got a couple more questions on that in a little moment, so make sure you stay with us. Actually, I should probably extend that to you, Darius. Playing-wise, was there ever a team or even maybe a manager that you would have loved to have maybe played under?
Sitting next to him now, Martin.
Darius, honestly.
How about that for an answer?
There we go.
Considering this man didn't know who I was. I'm only kidding.
That's a great answer.
That's very, very kind. And honestly, and if he had said anything else, I would have killed him.
Right, let's head pitchside now. As you know, we bring you guests thick and fast here. Well, FG is now alongside our City legend, Jolene Lescott, and of course the commentary legend that is Ali McCoist.
By two absolute legends. Did you see a mate there?
I'm waving to somebody up. Sorry, but you see there,
very popular man, Ali McCoy and Jolene Lescott. First things first, welcome back, Ali. 100% record so far on MatchDay Live. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling. I actually think it will remain 100% after 90 minutes tonight.
Nice.
I genuinely do. I think it'll be a good game. I'm looking forward to it. I'm allowed to say I was a little bit disappointed at the weekend. Didn't think it was a great game, to be honest. I was looking forward to it. Thought it had been more open, more exciting. It wasn't to be. But I fancy City again tonight.
Jolene, how are you feeling?
The same. I'm confident tonight. Slightly more confident. Watkins is not available for them. He's a big threat for them. But like Ali, disappointed with the weekend's result, obviously. But also the game, I think Arsenal came to spoil the game a little bit more, and you got to give them credit for that. But yeah, I expected them to come to win, which tends to be an exciting game for everyone. I think when teams come here to win and not to lose, I think it just bodes well for football.
So let's stick on the topic of Sunday then. So disappointing that you've mentioned. What was it that disappointed you the most? Was it the way that City attacked or the way that Arsenal approached the game?
No, I've got to be honest. I think you've got to give Arsenal credit. You do. I think they came here last time and got going over, to be honest with you. So they came with a different tact, and it worked fine. I thought the two centre backs were excellent. I thought they didn't give the big fella up front any scope at all. And I thought they earned their point, to be honest with you. City, what is it? The first time they haven't scored at home in, I don't know how many games, 50 or whatever it would be, 57 or so. I don't even know the exact figure, but you know, I think it was just one of those afternoons, to be brutally honest with you. I didn't think it was a terrific spectacle, but I think, you know, the credit has to go to Arsenal if you can give it for spoiling the game a little bit. But hey, they came and they got what they wanted, and fair play to them.
Yeah, fair play to him indeed. Jolien, you've been in this position before in Sky Blue. City fans will, of course, remember that year we were written off many, many times before, and the deficit was bigger than what it is now. So this group of players, they've been there, they've done that. They're going in to chase a fourth title in a row. They'll still be reasonably relaxed, won't they?
Yeah, of course. There's still a lot of points to play for. The only different factor probably that there's chasing two teams now. So that obviously is an added disadvantage for us. But in regards to knowing what it takes, there's no better team placed to be in this position, and there'd probably be every other team that Arsenal and Liverpool will want chasing them, because they know that this group of players won't let up, the manager won't let up, and if they drop points at any stage, we'll be ready to pounce.
As a player, this is a question for both of you, by the way. As a player, do you watch the teams around you religiously? Do you try not to?
I watch the results. You don't watch the games, because the performances are irrelevant, to be honest, in the great scheme of things. But the results are important. So, especially when I remember in running to the title race in 2012, we were on the way to Wolves, and we seen the United result, and they drew 4-4, and we knew then we was in control in our own destiny. So you tend to watch the results, but not necessarily the performances.
Absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I think if players tell you otherwise, they're kidding on. You'd always have a look on the other results. You would 100% focus on your own game, as you would expect you to do. But at the same time, you'd have a wee eye on the other result, hoping for a slip up here and there, wouldn't you?
Let's touch on Erling Haaland, albeit he's not starting tonight. But there's been a lot of criticism about Erling, which, I mean, from my perspective, a man who's not played the game, all I know Erling Haaland does is his job, which is to score goals. Jolien, what do you make of everything that's been said about Erling?
Yeah, I think it's unnecessary criticism. Yes, in terms of improving his all-round game, obviously, he's still really young, if I'm honest. But listen, he scored a stupid amount of goals, so he cannot be considered to be anything less than an elite striker.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you guys. One man who's in the studio is Martin O'Neill. And I know you've had...
I spoke to him this morning. I spoke to Martin this morning. I hope you enjoy the game, my friend, and I'll see you on Monday. He still promised me a lunch. She's going to take me for lunch.
Well, there you go. Lunch with Martin O'Neill. It's been a pleasure catching up with you both. Thank you so much. Let's head back to the studio.
Thanks, FG. Thanks to Ali and Jolien there as well. So you owe him a lunch, Martin, apparently.
McCoist, he gets everywhere. He gets everywhere. He's on every station now at this minute. Honestly, I woke up the other morning. I decided, you know, I'm going to try some intergalactic stations so that he's not on it. But yeah, he was.
He's still there.
There he was. But he's brilliant. He's so funny. He's a funny lad. I worked with him way back. God, he was very young in 1998 in the World Cup for BBC in France, and he was absolutely hilarious. Really funny lad. And, yeah, terrific.
He's class. I love hearing him on the commentary. And we wanted to just do a little focus on. We were touching upon Unai Emery before, as one spoke about kind of how he's really lifted Villa. I mean, having played for them as well, for the fans and everything, Darius, it's an amazing time to be. You know, where they're pushing as well. It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they're enjoying it now. I think from a personal point of view, watching the club that I used to play for, some of the football that they've played this season has been really good, and that doesn't come by accident. I think the study and the hard work that goes on behind the scenes, you know, Villa have been able to show that on the pitch at various points this season, and rightfully so. They're at the position where they are. We just want to see them, you know, get to where they want to be, and that's that Champions League. That's really important for them as a football club, and it's a real sign of progression for them as a team.
It's amazing because I mean I've got here the last time that Aston Villa qualified for Europe was under yourself, Martin. You had the UEFA Cup campaign as well, and then you also had a League Cup final in there, FA Cup semi-finalist. Your time at Villa, I know, is always looked back on so fondly. Do you look back on it with that fondness as well?
Yes, I do. Yes. I came to the football club in 2006, and Doug Ellis was just leaving the club, or the club was being sold at the time, although he took me on in the first place. But he even told me that his time was nearly up at that stage. And Mr. Lerner, Randy Lerner, came in, the American, and bought the club. And he and I had a very, very good relationship for quite some considerable time. But the irony is the fact is that our final season, although we still again finished sixth for a third consecutive year, was the best we did in points. We were in a League Cup final against Manchester United. If the referee had done his job, we might have won. And the semi-final of the Cup. But he and I were at loggerheads, which I have to say that it's not all one way. I can be rather cantankerous, I must admit. So I kind of regretted leaving in the manner in which I did. So I've apologised a number of times for that there. But did I enjoy my time at the football club? Absolutely loved it. Some really good players. I inherited some good players like Gareth Barry for a start. Yeah. I brought some really good players to the football club. James Milner, that you do from Manchester City days. And you're talking about Agbonlahor, bringing him on, and Ashley Young that I took from Watford. Really exciting players, and yes, I did. I loved it, and I even came here to Man City to take big Richard Dunn off you at the time, you know, who wasn't playing regularly here. I must admit at this stage, and I think this was round about the start of Manchester City's beginning of their dominance, really, at the time. So I have to say I loved working there at the football club.
Also, we got a great stat, which is that the last time that Aston Villa won here at City was in 2007. You were in charge, and you were playing for City up front as well.
Oh, God. Can we get a better stat next time?
Is that right?
It was a beautiful free kick. There it is.
We shone.
Oh, was that the game?
Terrific. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think John Carew scored as well that day as well.
Big John,
free
did
kick.
Is that me trying to block it?
Sean's managing Wigan now.
Through the wall there. We're looking at the wall, we're asking questions to the wall there.
So that's the last time that Villa have won?
Yeah, last time they won 2007, yeah. I mean, and if they do win here today, they're going to be hoping to do the double of us. The last time they did that was in 1976 was the last time they did the double, a long time ago. Sean Maloney as well, now manager as well. Actually, there we go. Also, just obviously you mentioned Celtic as well. That another must have been an amazing time in your career as well, Martin.
I loved it. But I must admit, I did like, I had 5 years at Wycombe Wanderers, which I loved, trying to get a team out of the Vauxhall Conference, which was called non-league scene, into the Football League, which we achieved, and I loved that. And that was at a stage when my children were pretty young as well, too. And it was their first kind of memories, really, of football in that sense, because they weren't around when I was a player. So and they didn't essentially, it wasn't anything. I didn't talk every single evening at dinner time about the European Cups that I'd won, because they wouldn't have known about them. Or maybe I did talk about them all the time. Maybe I did. Maybe I bored them into submission. Maybe they said, "Oh, Dad, it's glad you're a manager now because you're not winning so much." Anyway. So it was great. I loved it. Loved it at Wycombe, loved it at Leicester City, as I say, after a tough old start. Won the crowd around it, it was great. And Aston Villa and Celtic, no doubt at all about it.
We've got a good question here on WhatsApp that came in from Jay, who says, I grew up as a Celtic and a Manchester City fan. We had both in the family. He wanted to know, what City player would you have wanted in your Celtic team, and was there a Celtic player you think who could make the current City team?
What Manchester City player now of today? Would you have taken?
Would you have taken to have in your Celtic team?
I mean, obviously, I have got a great deal of regard for Haaland, but at the time, Henrik Larsson was scoring a lot of goals for us as well. If I could take De Bruyne, I would have taken him all day long.
Oh, nice! And he'd have found Larsson, wouldn't it? It'd have been a good partnership.
Yeah. I had a strong midfield as well too, but he would have had
the little cherry on the top.
Absolutely.
Darius, we've had this one come in from Louis for you, who wanted to know, who would you rather play with, Haaland or Alvarez?
Oh,
it's a tricky one.
I'm going to go with Haaland.
I'm going to go with
I'm going to go with Haaland. I grew up in football with the big man, little man kind of dynamic as football, so I think I could work with that. My days with Dion Dublin up front will yeah.
Quite interesting. You know, when you mentioned that there, though, so is that, how would that dynamic work? I mean, because I remember as well, Jolene spoke about when becoming a centre-half partnership. We said he knew when Company was the first name on the team sheet. He then made his game about how he could best complement Company.
Exactly it.
And was it, I guess, the same in
That's
the
exactly it.
position?
So in Dion Dublin, you've got one of the, if not one of the top 3 best headers of the ball that I've seen, you know, in football. So for me, that opens up opportunities. You know, whenever there's a ball in the air, it's simple. There's a chance for me. He's probably going to win the header. I've just got to be lively enough and smart enough to know where that's going to drop. So for all of the build-up play that you work on, these are points in the game which are very hard to, you know, recreate in training. But there's opportunities for me in the game just because of that. I'm not saying Haaland's great in the end, he's going to win all the flick-ons for me, but at the same time, just that dynamic is something that I'm very much used to.
Absolutely. Keep those questions coming in, gents and ladies as well, please, on that all-important WhatsApp number. And I can bring you a score update from the Arsenal game at the Emirates. Manchester City fans, I apologise. They have scored. It's Arsenal 1-0. Martin Odegaard scoring for Arsenal there. We'll keep you updated throughout the show as we go as well. Obviously, they kicked off a little bit earlier. Right, we've got around 15, 20 minutes until kickoff, but we're going to take a look now, and you mentioned some already, Martin. Players who have worn both the City and the Villa shirt. Obviously, Darius as well. This is in the spirit because you have also done the same, which is why you've made the City and Villa combined 11.
Thank you.
I wondered straight away, and I wanted to begin with, because we had Colo Torre in the studio at the weekend, and everyone, and even for myself, me, my dad and my brother, one of our favourite players ever was Gareth Barry, Martin. And what was he like to coach? He just seems like the ultimate professional. But also, whenever I ask any City players of that season we won the league to give us their favourite 11, Gareth Barry is the first name on all their team sheets.
Gareth Barry was he was a dream to work with, an absolute dream. For most of the time. I'll explain that in a second. But when I came to Aston Villa in 2006, I think he'd been a bit disillusioned really about what had been happening to the football club and to him in particular, because he'd been in the English squad at some stage or another. No, there was a move afoot for him to go to Portsmouth. I think Harry Redknapp was managing Portsmouth at the time. And he was very interested in it. And I said to Darius, my first week there, we had 2 weeks of pre-season before we started the new season. I said to him, listen, I'm going to try and build a side around you, please just give it a season. And if you're not in the England squad by that time, maybe, you know, at the end of the day, you can leave. Well, thankfully, he got into the England squad. But he was a driving force, yet unbelievably quiet. Really quiet. So he was a leader in the sense that he led by example rather than by shouting and roaring at players. He did very, very little of that. And he would be quiet in the dressing room as well too. But he was terrific. And he was the one that he was in the early days when we had our first season with a bit of a struggle. Started off okay, but really a bit of a struggle in the side. But you always felt that with Barry there in the side that we'll calm it and we'll work it through. So and I'm pleased, and people who have played with him, Manchester City and at Aston Villa, yeah, absolutely have the same regard for him. So he was really excellent. Just a little bit towards the season, his last season. Just before the pre-season, before that, there there was an offer in from Liverpool, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough as far as myself and Mr. Lerner were concerned to prize him away. They were trying to get him on the cheap at the time. It was Rafa Benitez, and I think that Gareth thought that he had the chance of going. As it turns out, we were looking for X amount. I think it was 10 or 12 million pounds, and they were offering about 7 or 8 at the time, and it didn't materialise. Liverpool at that stage were saying they didn't have the money to do it. Then about a week after the move fell through, Liverpool paid 20 million for Robbie Keane. So I think Gareth was really irritated by the fact that they had the money then and didn't spend it.
Of course.
Anyway, as it turns out, he did the last year for us. he was terrific again. He just got his head down, was really great again, and then and he went to Man City.
Yeah.
And thankfully, he ended up winning the medals that he deserved.
Yeah, thoroughly deserved.
Yeah.
I mean, you played with him
Yeah.
as well, Rice. I mean, you must look, again, similar to what all players say, just
Everything that Martin said is the truth about him. I grew up learning football, obviously, at Aston Villa in the youth teams and schoolboys with Gareth Barry. So he was brought over to Villa. So we had our youth together at Aston Villa. He broke through a season before me and made his debut for the first team. I can remember it clearly. I'm still in contact with Gareth now. We played the odd game of golf. And he's still quiet but dependable. Conscientious, working on his golf swing, is getting that right now. I'm trying to drag him into coaching because I think he'd be a great coach.
Yeah.
But I think that the amount of games that he's played, the amount of football that he's played over the years, I think he's content with what he's done in football, and I certainly, commend him for everything that he's achieved.
Couldn't agree. Who's got the better handicap?
It'll be him now because I haven't played in a while. Yeah, it'll be him. Yeah.
I also wanted to ask you. I mean, I think there was a crossover on both. I'm not sure, but Stephen Ireland. And because I hear so much about Stephen Ireland, it's rare we get to mention him on the show, but because he was in the combined 11, you played with Stephen Ireland.
I did, yeah.
What was he like? Because the whispers were as well. He was technically amazing.
Well, we were speaking about it, weren't we, before the show started. He had an amazing season at Manchester City, and I was there when he had it. And to watch him in full flight, in full glory, as a young player coming through, I think he was only 17, 18 at the time, just breaking through into the side. It was brilliant to see because you'd look at him as a person, just as a character, and you wouldn't expect him to be able to do the things that he does. But he was clever. He was always one step ahead of the other players. When Manchester City got the new ownership and started bringing in the Brazilians and players like that, he was the one that gelled with them the most out of all our players. He was the one that all of the Brazilians found themselves being able to combine really well with in training. And he caught their attention very much so, and I'm not surprised, even though we didn't have the greatest time at Aston Villa, that Villa tried to get him in there because whilst he was, fading a bit at City, he certainly had that talent, locked away and improved him for that year.
Yeah, he really did as well. They always say in training as well, he was unbelievable. I think they still play five-a-side with him a little bit, Jolien and the boys. I wonder as well, Jack Grealish. Obviously on there. I mean, I guess that would have been a player you'd have enjoyed to manage. You talk about bringing players through overseas.
Well, Jack was a very, very, very young lad at Aston Villa when I was there.
Yeah, of course.
So, and he claims that I, in some little session, I must have gone to watch underage games, which I did do a lot. I love watching the youth team play when they were particularly involved in the Youth Cup, but Jack was too young again. But he said that he was falling down a little bit, falling down. And I said to him, I supposedly said, I don't remember this, but he said that I said to him that if you're going to fall down, why didn't you fall down in the opposition penalty area? Try and get yourself a penalty. Well, I'm not so sure that I did say that, but anyway.
That's what he said.
So he maintained. But he was a very young lad. And when I was the manager of the Republic of Ireland, it would be nice if Jack had been. He had played underage level for the Republic of Ireland, had enjoyed it immensely. But I think that he and his father felt his career was always going to be English. And no surprise because Jack was born here as well too. Yeah. So from that viewpoint, but he had been out on loan at Notts County as a kid at the time from Aston Villa.
Right.
Absolutely, and I had people go to watch him. Who always said, "Listen, this boy will be a player. He will be a player." And he was very slight at that stage, very, very slight. Out at Notts County at the time, out on loan. So, but you could see the potential even then.
Even then, yeah. And then, as he's saying, he got his move, and as last season as well was one of the first names on the team sheet. I just wondered off that, Darius, an obvious question, but that's what I'm here for. When you're coming up against former teams, but obviously a team as well that obviously you've kind of grown up, there's almost a deeper connection. What is that like, when you're coming up against your old team?
Oh, you can't sleep. You can't sleep. You don't know what to feel. But funny enough, there must be a stat on this. You have to find it out. Players tend to always score against the teams that they used to play for.
Yeah.
It just tends to happen all of the time. And when I watch football results and see it, I always see it's almost like a pattern. So I do think it's motivating. I do think it can give you that extra yard, that extra burst, that extra bit of passion. But yeah, like Martin said, he's a great player. He's probably, you know, focused, tuned in, homed in, probably not worried so much about it. But I think that if he can get something against his whole team, he'll celebrate. Yeah, he'll celebrate now.
we bring you a lovely highlight there.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
should finish that.
As I was saying, yeah. So obviously that's against my old team. And it does mean a lot. You want to show the team that, you know, let you go, that you're still good, you're still capable.
Great finish as well there off the left-hand side. I could stay listening to you both for the whole show, but we have not got long until kick-off. If you've just tuned in as well, starting 11 on the bottom of your screen, it is 1-0 at the Emirates. Martin Odegaard has scored. Before we get some final thoughts from my guests and some predictions in a moment, I can now tell you that FG is alongside Gary Anderson.
Yes, thank you very much, Kelly. It's with great pleasure to say I am joined by an absolute legend from the darts world. Gary Anderson joins us here, pitchside at the Etihad. First things first, we can see Bernardo Silva just behind us. How are you finding the Etihad Stadium?
First time, fantastic. You know, I've played in some big places. This just, what a place.
Now, the darts is known for its incredible atmosphere. This stadium, when it's rocking, is absolutely rocking. How important are the crowd in a factor, do you think, for these players in comparison to the darts? Because we know how well you work the crowd when you play darts.
We do. I mean, any sport you play, you know, the crowd, that's what helps you along. You know, it makes the game. You know, especially the darts. You know, we need the crowd. If we never had them, I don't think it would be as interesting. And you know what I mean? I've been standing about watching a lot, and the kids, their faces walking about the state, all they do is smile. They're absolutely, they love it, don't they? It's been good.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Let's talk about Pep Guardiola, our manager. Now, everybody knows how hard-working he is, how precise he is in everything. If you had to get a PDC player and say, "Ooh, I think he's similar to Pep Guardiola, like completely 100% preparation all the time, 100% concentrating on darts all the time," who would you say would be that player?
Well, there'd be two choices. My first choice would be the great late Eric Bristow.
Yeah.
Eric's no longer with us, so Phil Taylor.
Oh, Phil Taylor.
I think Phil, as a manager and a boss, I think, yeah, he'd have us working hard.
And now, obviously, when you're on the tour and stuff, you're travelling so much. It's pretty relentless, very much like these group of players who have 8 games this month alone. So in comparison to that with darts, the travelling and stuff, how much of a factor does that play into your performance?
I mean, I struggle. I've always going to struggle with the travelling, but now with the schedule, now with the youngsters are doing, especially the Premier League boys now, you know, they're never at home, you know, and it's going to be like that for the next 12 months. So it's a hard old circuit, you know, but they'll get used to it. You know, they get to see the world through something they enjoy playing. So yeah, it's a hard one.
Well, a little bit about you as well before we head back to the studio. Obviously, you've had such an incredible journey. What's next for you? What can we expect from Gary Anderson?
I don't know. I'm still enjoying playing. You know, I'm still competing quite well now. I think when I do retire, my son's a big Man City supporter, so I think on my days off that I get, I think he'll be dragging me up here to watch him a bit more often.
Well, something tells me that Gary Anderson will be Etihad. It's a pleasure to catch up with you. Hope you enjoy the game. Let's head back to the studio.
Cheers, FG. Great to have Gary Anderson, darts player, on there as well. Hibs fan though, Martin, as well. Didn't go down too well here in the studio. No. We've not got long till kick-off, gents, so I wanted to get final thoughts and obviously pick up on the reverse fixture at Villa Park, Martin. Emery, it's the first win he'd got over 14 attempts against Pep, but whatever tactics he deployed that game worked well. He limited us to 2 attempts on goal. That's the fewest ever by a Pep side in the whole of Europe's top 5 leagues. He won possession in the final third. There were 22 shots in the game. Could you see him maybe pulling out something tactical today, possibly?
OK, well, I went to the game that night and I thought Manchester City were very poor. It was as poor as I've seen them play. They had John Stones just coming back from injury, and I think it was his first start playing midfield that night against a rampant midfield.
Yeah.
And also Akanji played alongside him then. So and I know that Alvarez played just alongside or pretty well close to Haaland at the time, but there was nothing creative about them that evening, which was a real surprise for Man City. Real surprise. And Aston Villa sensed that quite early on. Bailey, I think, started his really good run that particular evening because he gave Guardiola a lot of problems.
He did.
Essentially, you know, he was he was kind of isolated out at left back, and then he didn't know whether to go with Bailey and then try and get tight with him, where he lost him for the goal, or whether he stayed off him. And whatever he did, it was just the wrong thing on the evening. Man City could not play as badly tonight. I think that the losses, or the players that are out for Aston Villa, should put it in the direction of Man City.
We mentioned and highlighted, Darius, that obviously, and we pointed out, there's going to be a lot of time Aston Villa having to defend. They are going to be a threat from counters. It's something City's defence have to be aware of. Where as well do you think as well we're going to maybe try and secure those 3 points in that attacking side of the pitch as well? Who's key to that?
Securing the points, I think it's Rodri. I think it's the midfield. They need to be disciplined. They need to be organised. They need to make minimal mistakes in their passing so that they can prolong their attacks. I think, as Martin said, Villa without those main players, goalkeeper Martinez, captain, gone. Yeah. Leon Bailey, who was man of the match in that game, and Ollie Watkins. I think that's too many top players who perform so well missing for them to stage the same sort of performance.
Yeah, are you surprised that Bailey's not starting in the game?
I am surprised.
I was a wee bit surprised. Look, Diaby's come into a little bit of form, I think, but McGinn will be a miss because he's had a super time, and he was brilliant against Man City.
He really was, he was. Well, gents, I've absolutely loved the show. It's flown by. We're going to be back at half-time, not full-time. We're going to dissect everything that happens on the pitch behind us. The lads are in the tunnel, so I'll just quickly ask my guests for a very quick prediction. Martin, what could do? Score prediction?
Do you know what? Honestly, I'll do my usual. I don't have a clue, but I think that Man City on the evening will be too much.
We'll take that. Okay, Man City win. You got a prediction, Darius?
I'm going to go for a 3-1 City win, but I think Villa will put on a respectable performance.
Fantastic. Right, and it is 1-0 at the Emirates, so we'll keep you updated on that. Alistair Management, Kit Simon is on your commentary. Thanks so much for joining us. I'll see you all at half-time. Last thing for me to say, come on, City.
Something about a night game at the Etihad Stadium that just leaves you with a little tingle across your body like no other type of fixture. The next time, of course, there'll be a night game here at the Etihad Stadium. Real Madrid will have rolled into town, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. First things first, Premier League points are on the menu for the Blues this evening. The reality is that they are in third in the Premier League table, but we know from recent seasons that third, second, ultimately, there's only one place that the Blues target,